We are breaking new ground, my friends, with an epic collaboration here by two stars from the scene, and we're going to go into it deeply here. Artist Journal, July 18th, 2023, broadcasting to the world from the high seas of the imagination in Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli. Living vicariously through our media relationship here, the life of a talk radio host doing visual art. Welcome back. And so, beautiful collaboration here. Nuggeteer, as we're going to see, was saying how I'm sure this is how Pocobelli is going to start the next show, and I guess I hope I'm not becoming predictable here, but it is kind of these are two artists we have been following for close to a year. Probably both, I think Strange Thing, it was around the end of August of last year when Thug Lord came out, and Uxine was probably around the same time, just as they were starting to put out their great new works. And I mean, what a year both of them have had. They have both, arguably exploded. I mean, Strange Thing, I don't think even had an Instagram. The last we checked, like a couple of weeks ago, it was at something like 165,000 followers. Uxine has, made a fortune. Literally was just a artist on Tezos and was doing well, but like many artists, just making sales, had a nice little collector base, and now has been at Sotheby's, has sold for, maybe $15,000, maybe more, individual pieces. So it's kind of a fun, to see these two together, and it's kind of a beautiful match, and it works visually. I mean, not all collaborations necessarily work wonderfully. This is a pretty interesting collaboration here. And so, of course, for those that don't know, Strange Thing did the AI, which probably was the most, the meat and potatoes of this composition. Although, I have to say, Uxine really took charge of his half here, with blocking everything out, putting a painting, although maybe that was actually based on the under work by Strange Thing. And you see, of course, classic Uxine iconography, the skull friar kind of crying light onto this old retro Mac, which goes off, geometrically, off towards us. And another kind of interesting aspect here, it is a GIF. It is a GIF, and you do see it in certain areas here, because, of course, this surveillance camera here is moving, and, of course, this skeleton hand, also, just trademark Uxine, is also moving. And you can see also the GIFization throughout the work, and I have to say I actually quite like it. It's probably a happy accident of sorts, but you can kind of see it here. Let me just zoom in a little bit. You see all this? What you might call artifacts, or it's the simplification of color, is what it is, because I think GIFs are limited to 256, and depending on how big of a file you want to have. But I think it actually makes a nice, it kind of adds to the whole, collaboration here, because I don't think Strange Thing typically uses GIFs, if ever. And over to Strange Thing, I mean, you have to admire and like this brushwork here in the windows. Again, beautifully painted, as I like to say for these AI artists. And, for those who are skeptical, first of all, I've been there and I totally understand. When I first came across Strange Things, what I like to call the masterpiece here, Thug Lord, in late August last year, I think that's when it came out. It was something that I had to kind of get my head around, and I did publicly here. All the videos are in the past. You'll see in the video library, so to speak, on YouTube. And at first, I mean, I had all the, as I almost call it, the stages of grief is what I was having, because the first kind of comment is, well, is this just pressing a button? But what you learn, and this is what I recommend, it's just like crypto. If you've never used crypto, like downloaded a wallet, sent money somewhere, bought something, bought an NFT, then it's really hard to understand. It's an abstraction. And AI is a very analogous process where it's easy to kind of form judgments, and you're like, what does this mean? Is it, you know, because you don't know actually how it's made and how difficult or easy. And what the real turning point for me was going, okay, let me try and make a work like Strange Thing, and having all the difficulties that are involved. And then you realized, oh, there's art required here. Literally, the Greek word techne. There is craft required here. Okay, and it's a completely different kind of craft. As we were mentioning in earlier episodes, creating AI art. But there is craft. Some people are better than others. Some people get more sophisticated, more complex, can have more versatility, more dexterity. And, you know, that's what I see when I see these beautiful brush strokes. You know, maybe Strange Thing is literally, for all we know, he's selecting each, you know, these two windows and saying, put vertical brush strokes with XYZ texture and who knows what else. Maybe it's simpler than that, but the reality is, if you think this is easy, then you know, as I did, then try it yourself, and then you see, then you really learn. There's nothing like learning by doing. Then you feel how difficult it is, rather than just being in the abstract world of pontificating and judgment. So back to the work here. Another kind of interesting thing before we move on. It's almost like a Star Wars figure here with the Nike and beautiful actual clothing here. And again, it's kind of this Renaissance meets, you know, modern clothing here. One thing I want to point out is this sharp line that divides the work and then follows the leg here and the shoe. And I mean, this is classic Uxine. And speaking of dexterity, I like to call him like a martial artist of digital art, because then the brushstrokes come out here. And I mean, to me, this screams Uxine. He was probably given this underwork, this painting by, you know, this AI painting by Strange Thing, and all of a sudden he's doing all this magic here. And another interesting line over here. Maybe it starts here, and the line, but it does seem like the line goes up. But interesting kind of just separation of the two worlds here. And again, that kind of, we just saw this yesterday, the brush strokes here. And again, gorgeously painted also by a Strange Thing. And I have to say, the color, again, it's reptilian. Like when I was on Twitter and I saw this, it was sort of like Nuggeteer was saying, like, I didn't even need to look closely. I just kind of saved the link and then posted it to my little list of links. I didn't even need to look. I was like, that's good to go. Like the color. So really interesting contrast in color. So this is going, finally, this is going for 2 ETH, a reserve of 2 ETH. And again, you even see right here the beautiful collaboration, glitch in the matrix. This looks like Uxine type writing, and then this looks like Strange Thing. So a real kind of meeting of the minds here. And what I like about it too is how, you know, collaboration is a tricky thing. They make it look really easy here. They make it look really easy, but I like how there's a sense of meeting of equals of sorts, and maybe it's this line that actually does that, but there feels like an interesting meeting of equals, and this sort of such different styles, but they are harmonizing quite beautifully. And again, finally here, there is a clue as to how Uxine works here, and it looks like Uxine is using maybe oil pastel here, brushes, so playing around, endlessly experimenting as Uxine does. And again, Uxine means, I believe, 3 zine, as in, you know, magazines, you know, homemade magazine, zines, 3 zine in Turkish, where, and again, Turkey is right up there with Argentina as far as like who well over, you know, I was going to say overrepresent, but who punch way above their weight class in the world of digital art and blockchain digital art. Turkey and Argentina are shocking. It's shocking how many of the artists, there's probably like 15%, maybe higher, amount of the artists in this show today on a regular basis are from one of those 2 countries. So that is fascinating. And as we pointed out earlier, how can we not see this as the economic, you know, foundation, the impact of economics on art, you know, both countries with currency problems. fascinating. You know, it's almost like macroeconomics and macro everything, geopolitics in a weird way has its impact on what we're looking at right now, fascinatingly. So again, beautiful work here and a beautiful collaboration. I mean, again, the color. And there it was, Nuggeteer. I can already see Pocobelli starting the episode with this. So hopefully I'm not getting too predictable here. But I couldn't help it. And yeah, so I couldn't help it. It was too beautiful here. So let me zoom in here. So I'm very thrilled to finally put the post out, and it is tweeted out, that Unknown Collector is going to be on this week's Spaces on Twitter. So that is at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in New York, 3:30 in Berlin and most of Europe. And I'm really thrilled to have Unknown Collector on, a thought leader, a huge collector of AI art, now getting into pixel art, has been watching the show. So I'm just thrilled because a pretty, you know, influential person in this scene and with really interesting opinions, and, you know, just really happy to have them on. So that is this Wednesday, and it never hurts, you know, all you artists out there, it never hurts to get to know a prominent collector, and he's very generous with retweeting other people's works out, and of course other collectors see that, so well worth coming to. There's already, I looked earlier today, there's already 30 people coming. I think probably a lot more are going to come as well. Just a couple of comments that I want to highlight. First of all, I just want to say a big thank you for all the, you know, congratulations on the 1,000 subs. That is great. Retro Manny, so many of my favorite artists in today's show. Human Boy, congrats. So happy to see things growing. Great episode. Indio Robot. First YouTube comment from this account. Yours is one of the best discovery tools of new artists and trends in the space. Thanks for all the hard work and commitment. And like, this is so wonderful, though. I mean, these are people in the scene who many of us, I mean, they're all familiar faces here, or familiar names. Mick Renders, awesome episode. Congrats on 1,000. Always appreciate the features. And you nailed what I was doing with the caustic comparison. So remember the pixel art piece with the nature, I think it was above, and then industrial. It's almost like a William Blake-esque theme, and then industrial scenery at the bottom. Utilizing the juxtaposition of the two images down to where the colors are placed, have been really enjoying the pixel experimentation. And again, has only been, as far as I understand, experimenting with pixel art for 6 weeks, you know, and I just think it's great. I think it's really great. Bulls, amazing show and some thoughts, and there's something, so was sort of commenting on the profile picture project influencers, suggesting a lot of them are engagement farmers with superficial knowledge. I'll just leave that comment there. As you mentioned, they miss the subtle things, which most of the times are the ones packed with greater value. Yeah, put it this way. This is how I just kind of respond is, yeah, it's always important to have several feeds of information. And as I was saying yesterday, don't just have the horse blinders on in crypto Twitter, and that's all that matters. Go to history, go to other artists, and then you take everything in, and then you can kind of, I think, come to, you know, a more rounded judgment, you know. So don't, you know, Twitter is awesome, but don't, in a sense, take it overly serious. I've been feeling a strong sense that many people, especially the ones trying to bring Web3 to the trad art ecosystem, are still taking old ideas that do not necessarily apply to Web3. And this is what I wanted to highlight here. In the search of integrating Web3 to the general off-chain art ecosystem. This is notorious after speaking with some local galleries. And I find this very fascinating. I was recently asked on, I think it was AI Art Today, interviewed me on Friday. And they were asking me about this term we had come up with here, digital folk art. And I actually didn't remember how we came about that whole idea. But I think this is kind of part of it, which is this idea that there's kind of a native art that is coming out of this blockchain Twitter scene, for lack of a better term, out of this crypto scene. And it's powered by the economics of the crypto, basically, of people, crypto investors literally buying the works. And I think that's why we have on a daily basis so much great art to look at. It's the financial incentive, which cannot be ignored. Now, I think Bulls, also known as 91 Woods, brings up a very important point. And something I've also seen, because we see, say, Pace, a blue chip gallery. We've also seen Gagosian. They're trying to make inroads into the NFT scene, but interestingly, to Bull's point, as far as I understand it, they're trying to bring in their traditional artists and then say, hey, okay, now make a NFT project. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what's interesting about it, just on a qualitative, almost phenomenological level, as consumers of this kind of art, it feels a little different when it comes out of Pace. It kind of feels like it's the same aesthetics that are kind of transferred onto the blockchain, whereas it's almost, I think what Bulls is getting at is this scene kind of has its own aesthetic that it has evolved and developed, I'd say, courtesy of the free market, and courtesy of financial incentive and collectors and this kind of ecosystem of buyers, sellers, even speculation that has actually, I think it's turbocharging the scene way faster than what's going on in the contemporary art world, because we have this, truly, it's an open platform. So anybody can go on Object, anybody can go on Foundation, sign up today, leave a comment if you don't know how, we'll discuss it, as we have in the past. And anybody can go on and sell and, go on Twitter, start talking about your work. And what's beautiful about the speculative side of things is people are always looking for the next big thing, the next unknown artist, because maybe they'll make a bunch of money. There's financial incentive there. So it's a great dynamic. And I wonder to myself if this is the reason why what you might call trad art, or when Pace puts something out, I think they called their NFT platform Verso, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. Or when Gagosian, or when it doesn't have the same feeling and the same sense of like, I gotta collect this, or I really want this. It feels like kind of the old aesthetics. So isn't that interesting? And again, finally, we've been calling it the second generation of digital art, is one of the ways we've been describing this whole aesthetic, one way of thinking about it. With video games being, people who grew up with video games. That's our very loose sort of a framework. And that's what we don't see, one could argue, when trad art is porting over into NFTs, but not bringing in new artists, which is what I would do if I was Pace or Gagosian. And I think the reason that it hasn't happened finally is because I don't think they're aware. I was on Super Rare for a year before I even knew, maybe longer, it was about a year before I even started to discover what was on Object and all of the treasures that were hidden there. So I think it's just kind of, as I call it, the visual arts underground. It might still be too underground, and who knows what could happen in 2 or 3 years once people start to clue in at these bigger galleries that there's actually artists that are, that they might be really interested in that they just didn't even know existed. So thank you for the beautiful comment, and thank you for all of the comments here. Great show, and waiting for the next 1,000 pirates onboarding the ship. LFG, as people were saying. Big fan of Jack Cato's Twitter account. Was, great info on art and art history. I was pretty impressed too, I have to agree, and I think we were highlighting it yesterday. Thank you, Martin Joe, for the congrats and the first glass of water on the show. What a time to be alive. Hilarious. And Bombattle, Primitive Intel, always great to hear from you. And Uxine, this is fascinating actually. Also thought about Spangle with Divine Moments of Truth in that title yesterday. Also thought about Spangle there, just got Ineffable Mysteries on vinyl. Congrats on 1K. So that is hilarious. And I've talked about Goa Trance here in the past. Some might not know, like what was super fascinating about Spangle is he actually came out of the Goa scene. He was called Hallucinogen. He was kind of one of the big pioneers of the Goa Trance scene. I think that came out in 1996, his first album. Started Twisted Records. And I remember Noosphere was probably, they were German. I even wonder if they're in Berlin. I've been meaning almost to look these guys up. Some of my favorite albums, Noosphere, what was that album called? I think they only put out one on Twisted Records. That was great. Again, I play that stuff at -3 or -4% on vinyl. FYI. So all to say, Spangle was an interesting case where someone out of that very esoteric scene kind of went mainstream with Spangle. And I'm not saying Spangle is mainstream, but kind of broke out in a whole new audience there. And a really cool project for those that have never heard. Deep psychedelic, we might say, as we like to say over here. Little Cakes. So awesome that you featured Lovid. They've been mixing video, sound, handmade, handcraft, community participation for a long time with some awesome, I mean, this looks like super cool, like Devo. This looks like new wave Devo. So Lovid, what does Lovid mean? A combination of low video, a la low tech or lo-fi, and loved. Before Lovid, we were each involved in other projects, Ortho, Cook Sisters, La Superette, etc. Since we started using the name Lovid in 2002, everything we make is signed Lovid. So again, just like very interesting people entering this space here. So very cool. Thank you for the tweet, Little Cakes. And Stippen Pixel, as we kind of run through the comments here, I always tell my friends blockchains is a place to experiment, referring to yesterday's show. Let's talk about artistic consistency after you show all the world your variants and experiments. This journal is too interesting. Thank you. Exactly. It's a beautiful place, especially object, for experimentation. And about memories are short. We can't read all of this, but I will quickly go through this. About memories are short. Something I've been thinking for a long time is that we are in the era of immediacy, maybe given by AI, 5G, or the logics of social networks, threads, with a asterisk, TikTok. Like there's a part of a generation very used to fast loading, unlike those of us who were raised with Internet Explorer. That would be me. Although I'm sure some of those who are raised with Internet Explorer are also accustomed to immediacy. Also to the social idea of being successful before the age of 30, or those neo-beliefs of getting something fast, whether it's fulfillment, success, or happiness. I mean, this is an interesting one because everybody who has big ambitions kind of wants to be successful before they're 30, but it doesn't happen to many people. So, you know, my favorite story in regard to this, I think it's Abraham Lincoln, who basically failed at everything until he ran for president and then became president. Like, look that story up. It's actually, it could be like a myth, like an urban legend of some kind, but I think it's true. And read that story, and it's kind of a, you know, you want to have the growth mindset and just a positive mindset. So don't get too hung up on age. As long as your brain's working, which is why you should go to the gym, all is good. So having said that, there's always hope. Let's put it that way. Having said that, I think that artistic consistency is also given by how much I show or how much of mine people know. So they say they are consistent and I am not. And so let's just run through this. I also think that as creative beings, there are spheres of consistency. Talking about me, I have creative processes in ceramics, painting, writing, and I also do pixel art. Maybe if I had in a website posted all my creative range, and that is the key word here, surely I can find a conceptual line that crosses all my process. Exactly. But if today I post a painting of mine, you can say, oh, what is this pixel artist doing painting? Exactly. And I think this is the key thing, is that there's an identifiable style, conceptual style that unites all of these different series, where it's kind of clear this person has certain concerns that they're exploring. When that is done, then different series, as long as it doesn't get out of hand, can be seen as range. I mean, very quick story. I had a show at Factory Berlin here, which is a workspace, about 5 years ago. And I had a friend from the art scene he was working at Esther Schipper, a very chic gallery out here, one of the top kind of blue chip galleries here in Berlin. And he saw the show. He's like, you know, I like the show. There's two works I really like. But you know what you should do? You should create a sculpture, because I think it would just give you more range. All the works were kind of like these digital works on paper and whatever. He's like, I think you should make a sculpture because I think it would give you more range. So again, back to this idea that doing different things it's not necessarily hurting you. It can actually benefit you. And that was his kind of very pragmatic, practical advice for me. Communicating the creative processes or grouping them in some place where we can all see them is also a choice, and that's good. For example, Jerome recently made a thread with his processes, and it was pretty cool to know the whole of an artist. Thanks for reading me. Love this journal. Thank you. And Stippen Pixel, we're going to see a work by Stippen Pixel today. Awesome, awesome pixel artist. And thank you to Indio Robot, finally here. This is where we've seen the bandages before in Gongoya Club's collab collection. In Indio Robot's opinion, the greatest collab collection on Tezos. So that is where we've seen it before. And also Kujeb. I missed this comment the other day, and we're discussing these works, these aliens. It is thematic, and yes, the alien. So we're kind of right. There's an alien theme to Kujeb's work, always celebrating the errors and lo-fi. Beautiful, just like Warhol, celebrate the errors. Made with VTech Video Painter from the 90s. It's fun and raw. I think that's what we saw, maybe that looked like it was bought off eBay or something. And this is also important. Video games, yes, a huge influence, mostly the early ones. Atari, Amiga, Super Nintendo, and so there you go. And here is Gary Newman, Keyboard. And Gary Newman, I'd play this, but the copyright police, it's a really good Gary Newman track. Airlane, I hadn't heard this one. I only knew like Cars and stuff off the Pleasure Principle. So, you know, Kujeb, aka Hasdrubal Waffle, always kind of in on the cool stuff. This was sent to me, finally, trash on Tezos. So a lot of us have been airdropped this trash token. And so who was it? I think it's Max Capacity, I believe. So what is it? Someone sent me these links, and I actually thought it was kind of interesting, as you're going to see. It's a token on the Tezos blockchain. What can I do with it? You can buy and sell art on Pepe at Nunc, or you can trade it. So what's interesting is I open these links, and here you can spend your trash on, you can get like these featured listings of trash, or you can buy this other work. So all pretty interesting here. There's Silva Santus for 125,000 trash. So I think this is just pretty hilarious here. And here you can even trade it. And I think it was at like $12. I was airdropped 170,000 for full transparency, something like that. And it was worth like 12 bucks yesterday. So maybe it's got the meme thing going. I don't know. And all to say, just kind of cool and just kind of fun, and let's see what happens with trash, with the trash token. Also, Eduardo Pulitzer continues to put out his pixel art show, part of the Pixel Network. I'm hoping here, we're going to put it hopefully on one page once I move, which is actually tomorrow. Actually, yeah, it's tomorrow I actually move, so I got to run through this. And this is super interesting here too. Sketching composition ideas for future drop, Ed Marola, and working on the poet here. So playing with kind of physical sketches here, which is fun. Rinny Fish, and also seeing her work in progress. And look at how 3D, I didn't realize this is Procreate here. I mean, it looks like Procreate. I didn't know you could go all 3D in Procreate, so that's pretty cool to see. So just cool process shots here, works in progress. And this is Pamelo with some screen printing here. You can see the screen, and it's being screen printed onto this shirt. And here you see more. So cool screen prints from Pamelo Cerrone, and look at these cups. These cups look amazing. So very, very cool here. So even getting into ceramics, just like Picasso. So again, showing range, actually. Into the works, finally, finally. Rosetto, Gatekeeper. Beautiful color on this one, really stood out here. There's some, I'm not sure if it's this white, black, red, and yellow here. Maybe it's within this whole composition, but there's something that pops in this composition. So this is called Gatekeeper, and this is a digital collage made from copyright-free imagery, just released, edition of 10. There are 4 left at 10 Tezos. And Diego Barro, Many People in a Bright Car during Burning Man. And this is a digital pencil drawing done in Procreate, iPad, and it's based on a photo he took. And here, oh, this is from way back when. Oh no, this is June 3rd, minted specially for event 200 Tezos. So this came out a couple of months ago. I think I missed this one. I thought this was new. So just a cool work here, and there are some still available. There are still 1 available for 2 Tezos. Cool subject and nicely done. Little Cakes, continuing with the rave theme here. Blacklight Rave 3 and 4 are available for 4.44 Tezos each, edition of 3. So the party continues here with Little Cakes. Interesting, kind of jarring works here. Kind of half painterly, half 3D. Just interesting experimentation. And continuing on, another collaboration here, Kappa Sage and Mental Noise. So of course, this figure here has the Kappa Sage kind of mask, and then here you see the mental noise kind of rabbit mask, rabbit fox almost mask, with very cool kind of the crucifix with kind of checkered crucifix here, and then another one beside it of like the robbers. Interesting. So just a cool and interesting collaboration, and really, again, an integrated collaboration. You see here, this looks like Kappa. This looks like Mental Noise, I'm guessing. And then here, all the brands and everything, Stussy, Gucci with 3 C's, Stussy, and the shoes and everything. And of course, almost the designer snake there in an air paint can. So just really cool. Edition of 20 and already on secondary for 15 Tezos and sold out at 10 Tezos each. So Street Savages, cool title. And a work on Twitter from Flora. Good morning. Have a great week, everyone. So I don't think I've seen this one before. So maybe this is a new work here by Flora. So maybe working on some new stuff for us here. Very interesting, cool colors, and just even the uniform and everything. Just you can tell Flora enjoys drawing, and the cool mushrooms here. Again, like we were seeing with Tornado, I find it interesting just as an artist when it's like, you know, partly black outlines, but then here just going with the color, same with the leaves, not doing everything outlined in black, just kind of interesting, kind of digital illustration style. And here's another one, Katrina Create. This is a 1 of 1 for, now it's 99. So this was originally 10. And Bridget, New York City, could see the quality there and picked it up and said, no way, that's not going for 10 Tezos, that's going for 100. So a cool 1 of 1 from Katarina Create here. Bridget, New York City knows value. I will say that for sure. Shout out to Bridget. Solo Mission on Mars by Smonter. So getting very prolific here, Smonter, and just another cool, the sci-fi work, kind of mysterious, keeping it unpredictable, cool drawing here of this person coming out on Mars, kind of brightly colored sky here and everything. So just cool work. I assume, no, that's metal. And then I guess the orange sky here and the orange landscape, just a cool work by Smonter. Sells it for 1 Tezos, edition of 25. But you know what? Smonter is so prolific. This is all starting to add up here. Solo Mission on Mars. And here's Igor Kapustin. It's another illustration here. This looks like an aquarium. Lisbon is the title. And just a cool kind of almost monochromatic work here with this figure here. And I learned about Igor Crispin from Louis Osborne's page. He really kind of retweeted out, bought some works. And here it's just a great composition here. And you see what looks like an aquarium here, someone walking through, great subject matter, nice just composition. Edition of 10 for, and available on secondary for 14. India Robot looks like just picked up 1. And how many are left? Couple more are left, and then they usually go pretty for a lot. Etkin Sun Game. So I'm not sure if we've looked at Etkin before, but a cool kind of classic, I mean, it kind of unites Summer Vacation and a Game Boy, pink Game Boy here, into one thing. This looks like vacation, and a very nice vacation in Greece. Sun is Rising, like the rebirth of an era, edition of 5. They're all available for 3 Tezos. Cool work. This just got released, so they may not all still be available. Pippi Universal. This is another 1 of 1 that I maybe should have picked up. This was how much? 25 or 30. And again, this super interesting filling of outlines. And here you just see, again, what looks like something like a picture of a screen, a photo of a screen or something. Just great experimentation here. I have to say, like as far as compositions of a mouse, this is a beautiful work. And here you see the nice patterning. This is the person that did Pee-Pee Cop, the RoboCop work yesterday. And I thought this was just a really nice work. The color is really great. And so, yeah, I think it went for 25 or 30. Object's a little slow for me here. Popple with a new work, really cool work. Viscount of Worm. It's a long night when the worm squirms tight. Cool use of 2 V's to make the W. The Viscount operates without fright, diminishing the last slice of delight. Edition of 25. So let's take a closer look here. And I think we saw the worm in progress. So Popple will often use generative art and combine it with pixel art. So I think that's maybe what we see there. And a really cool figure here with light, and you gotta love these kind of lit up user interfaces here. Always kind of a sci-fi feeling to it. It's almost like that Alien vibe of, it feels like old technology, but it's from the future, like that sort of idea, and this kind of very Alien-esque, H.R. Geiger-esque kind of background. Very cool work. And this shimmering pixels here, and let's not forget the purple brain in the middle, and you wonder if on this screen, this worm is actually in this brain here. That is what I wonder. So a complex work here from Popple, only 22 on secondary. Considering Popple's reach recently, not a bad deal, and it was 15 on primary, so not much above primary. And here's Tradscape, who makes the music, who made the music for the start of this show and also the ending show. Those are two NFTs I bought from Tradscape, where you can use the music, so always kind of have a special place in my heart for Tradscape, and a great artist too. Great title, In Lieu of Alchemy, and he always makes his own music. Probably an accordion or something. Kind of a dark work. So great to see Tradscape here. And let's just see here. Trying not to kill my mic here, being very delicate with my mic. Okay, so edition of 15, and this sold out at 20 Tezos, so nice take. There's Spiegel's Maskinen and more. So Der Nadler and Spiegel's Maskinen, yeah, nice. So beautiful work from Tradscape. Great to see him back. And of course, this is Demon Ego with a cool composition here. Edition of 10 for 10 Tezos. There are 2 left. And just a cool kind of pixel work. And again, we see a lot of Demon Ego's notebooks, so it's always interesting to see just the pure digital works. A lot of dithering. Again, likes the GIF kind of flashing sort of thing. Interesting composition here. Very kind of free-spirited artist here. Interesting kind of almost Escher-like structures here with this person, this aliens inside it. Different colors, just endless experimentation here. Very cool, and this nice gradient that goes from the top to the bottom. So cool work from Demon Ego. Vegverse, a new artist that I've never seen before. Edition of 10 for 2 Tezos, 10 available. So get it while you can. Get it while you can. I thought this was really rad. These dithered hands, disembodied hands, playing the piano here. This dithered piano, and almost like this sheet music coming through the piano within this Windows 95 type structure, and then this kind of interesting grid that moves. So pretty cool work. I think just mostly undiscovered Vegverse. So always new people coming in here docking, and maybe it's been here for a while. All to say, new discovery for over here. Look at this beautiful work by Stippen Pixel. I love the negative space in this work. Again, the kind of dynamic pixels over here, and then just this omnipresent silence and the simple house here, a couple of houses, kind of mysteriously made, and then just like the interesting windows and everything. Looks maybe like done with freehand. There's something about this work that's kind of magical. Edition of 8 for 5 Tezos, 7 left. Low tide. Look at Figments. So Figments is experimenting. And of course, if you watch this show, you're going to be very familiar with Figments. Look at this work. And kind of playing with these RGB glitch filters, I assume. Maybe it's programming. I'm not sure. But kind of playing, almost, you know, for lack of a better term, deconstructing the work here into its RGB components. And as you see, when you put RGB together, it makes white. That is the difference between print and the screen. So I love the beautiful composition. Interesting putting the programming there. Very cool work. And this is EMI Pixel, ME Pixel. And this is called Port Arthur. And let me just minimize this. You land at Port Arthur for supplies. It's kind of the smell of a bustling spaceport always gets your blood pumping. It's kind of a cool, almost has a 1940s sci-fi pulp feel to it, doesn't it? And so just a cool kind of dithered work here by ME Pixel, who we started looking at. Edition of 5, there are 4 left at 7 Tezos. I like the monochromatic work, and then the figures here, just a little bit of color here and there, which is interesting. Muji with a new work, Prismatic Sentinel. You are under watch of the cyber deity. Edition of 20, there are 7 left at 10 Tezos. Always these beautiful colors here. And just kind of a cool, I love how here, the gradient, the rainbow gradient ends in this beautiful kind of dancing pixels of light here. So again, always kind of an astronomical references here. Here it looks like almost a sun. These look like planets. So interesting work from Muji as usual. And here is mech.txt with a lunch break practice. So just very cool here. And, you know, 2 colors it looks like, and just cool work here from mech.txt, making it look really easy. So that is fun to see. And also releasing this work here at auction for 200 Tezos now, edition of 1. And let's just see. This is from the My Mom Is So Awesome series. We love that. And shout out to Mom, who is likely watching. Lotus is the name of the work, 120 by 120 pixels. 5 hours to go and already 200 Tezos. So these one-of-ones by mech.txt go for a large amount. And just cool, kind of almost like this halo Renaissance style around the skull figure. Interesting work. Another artist that is new, Chaz, Block Blitz, or new to me, and this was hilarious. I saw this on Twitter. Just Tetris, which many of us are familiar with, and almost on a retro computer. And the funny thing about Tetris, when you're a kid, if you play this a ton like I did, is you start to, and this is a weird phenomenon, I'm sure some of you actually have experienced it if you did play Tetris, where when you're going to sleep, you'll often imagine the perfect Tetris game, where you always the shapes always fit in. Weird phenomena. All to say, this is a very cool work here. And you gotta love these kind of details in the background, almost like these balcony lights of sorts here with this retro computer. Interesting colors. Available for $9.50 on secondary. Let's just see what it sold for. Accepted offers at $2 and $5, 60 cents on primary. And here are other works. I don't think we've seen Chaz before. Maybe we saw that work, because I was following Chaz. Interesting artist, Bite by Bit, with a one-of-one called Pucks. Again, playing with the 3-letter titles here, and again, using kid picks and just a fun one-of-one, playing around here with the tools, the umbrella, some letters, the cat, and on and on. So Bite by Bit with another beautiful work using retro tools, 1991 kid picks. And continuing on, these interesting kind of video game-esque works by this anonymous account, Symbolic Vision, The Islands Beyond Your Backyard. So there's always seems to be like a whole bunch of alchemical or just charged iconography in this series here. And again, it seems to be composed of video game elements, maybe later, not so much the it doesn't seem like first generation Nintendo. Maybe this is Super Nintendo or even Sega, right? It seems like a little bit more refined in terms of the pixelation, a little bit more specific. Here's another one, Symbolic Vision number 7, The Eye. So just interesting, you know, very unusual works here. Cool spectrum, rainbow spectrum in the middle here, and a castle, and just all sorts of interesting things. An eye. So just a very unique artist here using video game imagery. This series is a conceptual research on archives and old technologies that run through all my works presented on Tezos. And here's John, July 17th, so keeping afloat. So having a good time. Looks like he's on vacation here, the skeleton. Hopefully I'll be on vacation in a couple of weeks here, and yeah, and keeping cool in this hot weather, and you gotta love the beach ball here. So John, of course, if you don't know, look at the great pixelated water here again. John, if you don't know, is one of like the kind of original artists to kind of make it on Tezos. So yeah, so there it is, edition of 25, price 63 Tezos on secondary, and we'll just see what it sold for. Yeah, 50 Tezos on primary. So it has a lot of collectors. Explainer gallery with score. So of course, Score uses Touch Designer, Midjourney, Adobe, and so cool collaboration here. I think this is part of the Trader series, but I'm not sure. We'll look in a second. So cool work here. Score, I always look to, and look at this, turns into a cool trading card, and look at that. And then turns into this beautiful pixelation here. So nice little video here. Vivi Crystal Fairies, yeah, this is part of the Trader series. So a different take on the Trader here. And then a couple of works by Ricano. I thought this was great. The Polaroid. So a Polaroid kind of just blowing apart. And yeah, I thought just kind of classic image. And that is now 100 Tezos on secondary and sold out on primary at 10. So lots of work coming out from Ricano. Here's PS2, Sleepless Night. Good title. And there it is again. A PS2. This is sold out on primary at, again, 10 Tezos each. Cap'n pick one up. So just very cool. Cap'n's been tweeting a lot of great art, by the way, of other artists, if you're looking. Continuing on, Renki with another cool kind of human walking work, this time across what looks like a high wire, or at least this maybe a plank of sorts, and just cool digital noise in the background here. Edition of 10 for 10 Tezos. There is one listed, Bungo Tokuya, and then also with Explainer Gallery, Mason is collaborating. So Hex Processor. And of course, we saw Mason the Third, which I think is the same person, start yesterday's show with those great question marks. So here, Hex Processor. Feels like more of a magical work. A lot of glitching in the background here. Cool work. And that is an edition of 15, and they are not for sale yet, not listed yet. And here, so this is Mayu, who is the pixel artist here. Dither does the TVs, which we've seen. So Dither times Mayu, and they're playing with Nevermind, the Nirvana cover of the little baby chasing the $1 bill, and that has been turned into a skeleton here. So a complex work here. Nevermind pixelized for 10 Tezos, available on secondary, let's just see, and sold out on primary at 5 Tezos. Very cool. And Caving Wild, and again, I think Cap'n was tweeting this out. We've looked at their work a little bit, but missed a couple recently, so just more interesting abstract work here by Caving Wild. Persuasive, Rituals, very interesting digital abstract artist here. Static, cool titles too. Edition of 12 for $250, 6 left, so pretty reasonably priced. And here is other work by Caving Wild. So we've looked at their work maybe a week or two ago and saw what they were doing. They've released a lot of stuff. And again, there is, you know, as I recently heard someone say in a completely different context, quantity has a quality of all its own. And here, just putting out, being prolific creates a kind of credibility. And so, cool work there. Ranexteer with a new abstract here. And again, playing with a little bit of purple here. And just cool work here, just a cool kind of 3D sculpture work. Edition of 22, monochromatic for the most part, still number 5. And let's just see, 17 left at only 2 Tezos. And Coda Nakazono, Continuum number 128, so a bit more of a lo-fi pixelated version of the, what is it, Space Continuum series? We'll see in a second. So interesting kind of take, different experiment here every time. Continuum number 128. Again, pretty low pixel size, canvas size, 540 by 675 for 11 Tezos on secondary. And here's LB, kind of a cool, kind of distorted work with a lot of noise in it. Whirl in a Dream, a lot of video analog work, and almost like that great work by LB called The Dancer, or Ballet Dancer. We've looked at it a couple of times. I can't go into it now, but that is one of my favorite works, probably my favorite work by LB, although I have a few of the Ballet Dancer. Look that up. Should we risk it here? I always get kind of, let me see if I can bring that up. I think Islay, Daydreaming Ballet, that's it. Yeah, it's now 90 Tezos. We'll see if it loads without crashing my mic here. Yeah, I love this work. It's a little slow right now. Again, hopefully this doesn't crash anything. There you go. Just eternally twirling there, the Ballet Dancer. Just a beautiful, beautiful work here. One of my favorites. Daydreaming Ballet, perfect title. Now 90 Tezos on secondary. DJ Kiro with another kind of animated glitch, anime glitch, and just kind of nicely done. I really like the lo-fi kind of glitch quality in the work here, and just kind of a nice minimal composition and just everything. Not trying to do too much in a sense, and these cool lines at the top and the bottom. Nice work from DJ Kiro, only 70 cents, edition of 7, so it's almost free from Kiro here, and there are 4 left. And Ex-Mortal Precipice, so 3D model, multi-layer video composition, digital glitch and effects applied in After Effects. So interesting work, a 1 of 1 for only 66 Tezos here from Ex-Mortal. So interesting, kind of almost a new direction, I'm tempted to say, kind of a different kind of work. So interesting there. And Ellie Lowe, who just put out that kind of sad painting of the cat, is back with more, you might call typical work. Almost has a video game kind of quality to the music and even the composition, interestingly. I mean, always kind of mysterious, Ellie Lowe's work. Often it's like, is this trash? Because usually there's trash in the work, kind of, I think, self-proclaimed trash artist to a certain degree. Legojo, Alien with Ice Cream. So Legojo, of course, has been on the Twitter Spaces. I think he's 17, maybe he's 18 by now, but really young guy, Alien with Ice Cream. So making some art, which I think is great. And they're just really nice textures that he's experimenting around with. Really nice kind of movement there. Cool title. Only 50 cents on primary, 4 left. So he is selling the work, which is awesome. And Dr. Version with a couple of works here. I missed this one from last week, Landscape 13, and some beautiful colors here. Again, playing with these kind of geometric landscapes here almost kind of makes me dizzy. That sky over there. So that is now 34 Tezos on secondary, sold out at 8 Tezos on primary. And also this one, we got a preview here of one that's coming next. A new piece in my 111 or LLL collection, minting tomorrow. So that is cool too, cool colors here. So I assume that'll move. And here's Bosca Gracias, who I think we saw, he left some comments here. Look at this. So just a really nice work. Of course, we see the Leonardo here. I think this is also on an Italian stamp, if I remember right. Beautifully kind of monochromatic. Again, feels like an Italian stamp of this painting. And so this is kind of, I think it's a collage. And you see this kind of film, you know, negative put over top, maybe the picture as a kid, but then almost half the face. Interesting, provocative work here. Mixed faces, photo collage, Bosca Gracias, only 1 Tezos. Beautiful work there. 1 left, edition of 5. So that's get it while you can. Bosca Gracias. And here's Bosca Gracias's work. Art family in rural Patagonia, Argentina. Glitch, watercolor, eco print. So huge range here. And here are some of the works here. So playing with photographs and putting stuff on top. And also, there's also this glitchorama work, which I believe I have loaded up in the next tab here. So interesting, kind of a different take on the Nintendo glitch ROM. This is more just like old works that seem to be super processed. I'm not sure if it is glitch. Analog glitch extracted from hardware video projections with circuit bending video game consoles. Glitchorama Sega Bent number 2, Russia. Interesting, very low editions, which is cool. Not sure what they're selling for, but probably pretty reasonable based on that other work we saw. Continuing on AI as we wrap up here. Zoom with Blood and Roses. Again, just enjoying watching this series progress here. And roses and kind of an interior and another one of these pale figures with kind of crazy hair here. Or at least kind of gray stripe at the front and long black hair and everything. So just an interesting kind of mysterious figure here. It's almost an echo of blood feeling in the wall, but it's kind of orange at the same time. Here it's almost bleeding. Blood and Roses by Zoom, mysterious work. Venta, The Grey Room. So a new one also by Venta, who is super prolific, putting out a ton of stuff, and this looks great. And I always love these paintings on the walls and these AI compositions. So Venta times AI, so there is editing going on with the AI here. And cool work, available 8 Tezos for 8 Tezos, 8 left on primary. And Tater Tots, Maracuya, sticker number 9, and I believe Cap'n actually tweeted this out. Just a cool physical, what I call a physical NFT. And I thought just a nice painting here. Interesting composition, kind of gives you a real kind of cool feeling. Available for $250. There are 12 left. Edition of 15 by Tater Tots. And that, my friends, is your show. So hopefully I see you tomorrow on Twitter Spaces with Unknown Collector. Don't miss that opportunity to, again, be with one of the greats of the Twitter Web3 digital art space. Until next time, take care.